When a group of daring individuals confronts the ultimate challenge, they find that the greatest obstacles are not around them, but within. Are you ready to defy gravity and your own limits? Buckle up for an adventure where falling is flying, and the only way out is up. Brandon awakens from a restless dream, realizing it's already morning. He dresses, enjoys breakfast while listening to announcements, and peruses the newspaper. Deciding it's time to depart, he heads to the airport. There, near the exit, two men, Kyle and Jed, engage in conversation. They await Jed's girlfriend, Ava, who unexpectedly arrives with her family's bodyguard, Brandon. Ava's revelation that Brandon is joining their trip surprises Jed, prompting her to apologize. Meanwhile, Kyle playfully points out fellow passengers, emphasizing that any situation can turn volatile. As Ava continues chatting with Jed, he advises her that family need not always be involved in everything. She reassures Jed that they'll mostly see Brandon from behind, as he's constantly by their side. Ava then shares a kiss with Jed, and Brandon hands his phone to her. Her father wants to check on her. Meanwhile, Marty, Hank, and their granddaughter Rosa organize their belongings at the airport. Marty remarks to Rosa that as she grows up, she increasingly resembles her mother. As they walk, Marty cryptically hints at a surprise destination, leaving Rosa curious. Nearby, an airport employee recognizes Ava as the governor's daughter. While Hank and Rosa chat, Rosa accidentally drops her teddy bear. As Ava, Jed, and Kyle stroll along, they chat about Ava's law school and her job, which she doesn't particularly enjoy. Jed inquires about what Ava has learned about herself. Ava responds by explaining that their vacation is meant for relaxation and escaping the stress of school, not for an intense interrogation. Meanwhile, Rosa frantically searches her bag for her lost teddy bear. In her haste, she bumps into Ava, who happens to be holding a cup of coffee. The coffee spills onto Ava's clothes, prompting her to scold Rosa. Frightened, Rosa hurries back to Hank for comfort. Realizing her harsh reaction, Ava feels guilty and decides to search for the teddy bear herself. A smile returns to Rosa's face when Ava hands her the recovered toy. Later, Ava approaches Brandon and reminisces about their shared childhood. She expresses gratitude for Brandon's continued companionship, even though she's now a grown-up. On the airplane, stewardess Danilo greets everyone as they board. While walking down the aisle, Brandon informs Ava that they've already passed their assigned seats. Ava explains that they'll be sitting separately since they're boarding from the rear. During takeoff, Danilo demonstrates safety procedures. When Kyle mocks him, Ava scolds Kyle and puts an end to his teasing. Later, when Kyle requests a drink, Danilo playfully pretends to spill it on him as revenge, leaving a satisfied smile on Kyle's face as he walks away. Meanwhile, Rosa and her grandparents enjoy playful bonding and have a delightful time. Ava notices that there aren't many passengers on the plane. Kyle jokes that the aircraft is old, so no one wants to take the risk. Jed explains that few people book flights on the chosen date. Kyle playfully taunts once more, suggesting that the plane's wings are fragile. Shortly afterward, a flock of birds enters the jet engine, causing instability in the aircraft. The crew swiftly reassures everyone, emphasizing that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Rosa gazes out of the window and notices the jet engine slowly breaking apart. Alarmed, she urgently points it out to her grandmother. Panic ensues, and passengers hurriedly fasten their seatbelts. Suddenly, a piece of the jet engine strikes one side of the plane, creating a breach. Those without seatbelts are sucked out due to the intense pressure. Rescue attempts prove futile as passengers are pulled out by the powerful vacuum. Even a stewardess gets caught while assisting a passenger. Brandon and Ava exchange a glance as the plane descends. It plummets and crashes into the sea, resulting in casualties. During the fall, Brandon is struck by a small metal fragment in the chest, and Kyle suffers a broken hand upon impact. Eventually, the airplane gradually sinks into the sea. The middle section fills with water, but the rear part remains above the surface. Danilo enters and checks on everyone's well-being. Suddenly, Brandon emerges from the middle section, carrying Marty and Rosa. He swiftly removes the lodged metal piece from his chest. Sadly, Marty loses consciousness after drowning. Danilo performs CPR, successfully expelling water from Marty's body and saving her life. They inquire about Hank, and Brandon somberly reports his passing. Tears flow and Jed is anxious, but Brandon reassures and calms them. He suggests they remain in the airlock for safety. Danilo mentions that the pilot radioed before the crash, so authorities will soon be aware of their situation. When Kyle hears this, he tells Danilo that he said the same thing, that they would be okay. Brandon intervenes, affirming that Danilo is correct. In case they run out of air inside, Brandon instructs Danilo to search for an air tank. Despite their efforts, they can't find one. Marty suggests they take the oxygen tank from a man she noticed among the passengers. Brandon swiftly takes action to retrieve the air tank. Before diving underwater, Marty asks if Brandon can bring Hank's cap to her. Brandon bravely submerges, retrieves Hank's cap, and secures the oxygen tank. However, a shark suddenly attacks him through a hole. He struggles as the shark bites his side, but fortunately, he manages to escape and delivers the oxygen tank and cap to the group. Brandon warns Ava to stay away, apologizes, and bids her farewell. As Ava observes a significant hole in Brandon's side, he tells her to be strong before being pulled back into the water. Witnessing this, Ava retreats in fear and sheds tears over Brandon's fate. Marty notices a significant drop in the group's morale, so she suggests they wait and plan. They then turn their attention to Kyle's injury. Due to the intense pain, he screams as they straighten his broken bone. Meanwhile, a rescue helicopter is dispatched to locate the crash site. The radio operator instructs the rescue chopper to intensify the search operation because one of the passengers is the child of a governor. After some time, Jed speaks with Ava and proposes that they take action. Nevertheless, Ava insists they should await rescue to avoid Brandon's fate. Soon after, the aircraft starts to deteriorate from the water pressure, allowing water to trickle in. Jed proposes once more that awaiting rescue may be unwise, overlooked by the others. He listens as they reminisce about their lost relatives. Tears fall as they share past moments with them. Amidst their conversation, they notice the water reddening, a grim sign that sharks are feasting on the remains of their kin. Meanwhile, rescue helicopters persist in their search overhead. Amid their dialogue, a shark abruptly rams into their vessel, eager to breach the interior. Danilo queries the remaining time they have, and Ava estimates roughly 3 to 4 hours. The aircraft emits a humming noise, which Danilo waves off as trivial. Jed gives a skeptical glance, prompting Danilo to accuse him of disbelief due to his role as a steward. Jed retorts, revealing his engineering background. He points out the aircraft's vulnerability, especially when compared to a submarine built for subaquatic endurance. He warns that at any moment, the plane might collapse and they could be inundated. Shortly thereafter, darkness envelops the cabin. As the plane sinks deeper, they find themselves precariously perched on a seamount's brink where any shift could send them plummeting to the abyss. The aircraft starts to fail internally. Now tilted at a sharper angle, the peril escalates. Ava concedes that their only option is to brave the ascent. Jed, anxious, inquires about their strategy against the sharks. The duo, upon diving, spotted the aircraft teetering on a seamount's verge. Drawn by the illuminated cockpit, they swam nearer. The survivors scoured for ascent aids. Rosa, voicing her fears to Ava, triggered Ava's realization of Rosa's mounting panic. Comforting her, Ava reassured their survival. Shortly, the divers neared, instilling newfound hope in the group. But as one diver gestured to them, a shark emerged. It dragged the diver down, and the group's hope turned to horror at the sight of his bloodied, amputated limb. The soldiers exited the fuel-depleted plane, trusting the seasoned diver's capabilities. Meanwhile, Ava and the others strategized their escape. Ava considered utilizing a fallen diver's scuba gear, plunging into the submerged section to locate it. Resurfacing, Jed inquired about her findings. Uncertain, Ava dove once more for verification. Emerging again, she confirmed her discovery to Jed. Concurrently, Jed tumbled into the water, managing to stay buoyant. A shark, however, dragging him beneath. Ava and the rest endeavored to save Jed, but the shark had already claimed his leg. Amidst Jed's agony, Rosa, shepherded by Marty, was cautioned to avoid the water. Marty tended to Jed's injury, administering rudimentary aid. Jed inquired about the gravity of his wound, and Ava relayed that the hemorrhage had ceased. Confounded by the numbness in his leg, Marty disclosed to Jed that he had been amputated below the knee. Amidst mixed emotions, Jed's stump was bandaged as Rosa was escorted in. Danilo rose, rearranged the cabinets, and accessed a rear compartment, passing a torch to Ava. She indicated that the sought-after language was situated to the right. Ava plunged in, scouring for the languages, when an octopus unexpectedly materialized before her. Emerging with a language in hand, Ava noted the scarcity of only 4 masks. Kyle remarked on Jed's ashen complexion, urging Ava to examine him. Ava consoled Jed, invoking his aspiration to visit Alaska, affirming their imminent journey. Despite Jed's skepticism, Ava vowed this time was genuine and expressed regret for their predicament. Mid-conversation, Ava's attention was drawn to the window by an odd sound, prompting a collective gaze outside. Marty monitored Jed's vitals, offered an apology to Ava, leaving her puzzled. Confronted with Jed's lifelessness, Ava endeavored CPR amidst tears, but Danilo intervened, acknowledging the futility of further attempts. Overcome with grief, Ava lamented Jed's altruistic intentions and her own perceived lack of courage. Marty draped a coat over Jed as the aircraft's disintegration escalated. Ava assessed the situation, urging immediate evacuation. Kyle contested, fearing they'd become prey to sharks. Ava proposed employing the bubbles, as Rosa suggested, along with gas canisters for respiration. With ample canisters available, they needed only to secure diving gear. Sensing Kyle's unease, Ava inquired about his well-being. Kyle recounted a harrowing childhood episode at a pool with his father, where he nearly drowned. Despite his prolonged breath-holding, his father's absence of aid forced him to resurface independently. Rosa queried the duration of his breath-holding, to which Kyle responded 2 minutes, deemed sufficient by Ava. Unfazed by the encroaching noise, Ava persisted in amassing canisters for additional bubbles. They continued their preparations undeterred. Ava glimpsed sharks outside the window, yet remained focused. She questioned Rosa about her aspirations, learning of her veterinary ambitions. Rosa reciprocated, prompting Ava to divulge her intent to resume law studies come October. Kyle probed the group's post-escape intentions, eliciting Danilo's marital aspirations. He also counseled Kyle to be discerning in matters of the heart. Kyle admitted he had no specific plans, relying instead on fortune's favor. Danilo concurred and proposed vacating the vicinity. Once ready, Ava approached Jed's inert form. Abruptly, a sound startled them, and the aircraft began to shift. Kyle, seized by dread as they slid, they remained unharmed. Ava reassured them, advocating for cautious movements to ensure their safe return. She sought Kyle's trust in her plan. Following his reply, another disturbance was felt, and the plane lurched. Marty implored Ava to safeguard her grandchild, vowing her own dedication. Ava consented, and Marty addressed Rosa, evoking memories of zoo visits where her grandfather always led the way. Marty assured Rosa of her grandfather's continued spiritual guardianship. Rosa, tearful, accepted the responsibility as Marty bequeathed her care to Ava. Ava instructed Rosa to deploy the cord at the sight of sharks, and they donned their goggles. Marty, expressing pride in Rosa, bid farewell. Ava and Rosa submerged, generating bubbles that repelled an approaching shark. Concurrently, Danilo and Kyle commenced their descent, while Marty chose to remain aboard, whispering a final plea to her spouse for Rosa's protection. Marty faced her fate. Kyle, witnessing Marty's resolve, returned for her, steeling himself with deep breaths, but a shark intervened, dragging him away, leaving Danilo no alternative but to proceed. Meanwhile, Ava and Rosa, swimming onward, stumbled upon a deceased diver. Utilizing his oxygen tank, they persevered, soon joined by Danilo. Ava questioned the whereabouts of the others, only to find Danilo solitary, his gesture conveying loss. They shared breaths from the oxygen supply and unfastened the tank from the lifeless diver, poised to ascend. In a critical moment, Ava activated the cord tethered to Rosa and Dan, propelling them upwards. At the surface, Ava evaded a shark's notice, yet, as the plane sank, Ava was drawn down. Struggling to ascend, she ultimately succumbed to unconsciousness. Miraculously, her life vest carried her to the surface. Regaining consciousness, Ava scanned for Rosa and Danilo. Amidst the debris, she spotted only Rosa's tiny teddy bear adrift. Just then, helicopters swooped in, casting a lifeline to Ava. Hoisted skyward, her heart lifted as she glimpsed Danilo and Rosa safe. A soldier inquired about any remaining survivors. Ava's headshake was her silent reply. Rosa's voice trembled for her grandmother, but Ava's repeated gesture spoke volumes, and Rosa, embracing Ava, wept. Ava tendered the teddy bear to Rosa, who, recalling her grandfather's counsel, felt its purpose fulfilled and let it go, a symbol of her newfound strength. This is it for today. I will reconnect with you with another story like this. Until then, this is your host for Movie, Recap Vision, signing off. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.